happening in Austin this weekend with F1, with College Game Day being here. And I think to the point I made to the players, we need to continue to stay enamored with us and what we need to do and focus on the task at hand, and not get caught up in what you guys are talking about or anybody else is talking about. It's not what other people say. It's actually about what we do. It's about our action, and we can control what we can control. And that was today's walkthrough and implementation of the game plan, and then focus on it one day at a time from there. So great challenge, great opportunity. I know our players are looking forward to it, like I said, against a very good opponent.
And there you have it from Coach Steve Sarkeesian. Could barely spit it out. He was talking about the upcoming matchup with Georgia on Saturday, which is probably the biggest game of the year for Texas so far. Thank you so much for joining us for Horns Report. I'm Billy Gates, and of course we talk about all things UT athletics on this show. And with me to talk about it is Sports Director Roger Wallace. Roger, thanks for coming by.
Should be a fun week.
Appreciate you. Yeah. And like Sarkeesian said, there's a lot going on in our little town of Austin, Texas this weekend.
Funny you mentioned F1 first, but yeah, they'll carve out their little niche on Saturday.
Yeah, and last year I believe Sarkeesian was the honorary starter at the race.
Well, if he's out there this week, it means it went pretty well.
Right.
On Saturday. I doubt it though, because we're on to Vanderbilt regardless.
Right. We all know how good Vanderbilt is now. So anyway. Before we get into Georgia too much, I'm sure fans still want to relish the 34-3 beatdown the Longhorns put on the rival Oklahoma Sooners up in Dallas at the Red River Rivalry last weekend there at the Cotton Bowl. Roger, you and I were both there. I was a first-timer there. That atmosphere is incredible. I mean, just being there amongst all the fairgoers pregame, going down and getting the Fletcher's Corny Dog. My very first corny dog, not my first corn dog, my first corny dog.
The official one.
The official one. Big difference. And then just the atmosphere of the game, having that 50-50 split with the crowd. Everybody's hanging on each play. It was a pretty special time, at least for me. Now, you've been to quite a few of them.
Yeah, you kind of didn't get your credentials worth because it was one of the few lately that, has been pretty one-sided. But from a Texas perspective, I always say I kind of get a gauge with the fan bases a little bit before, and Oklahoma's fan base didn't seem to match Texas's fan base. They weren't in their seats as early. Sure. When you look at that 50-50 split, there's always a sprinkling of crimson in the burnt orange and vice versa. Yeah. There was definitely more burnt orange sprinkled in the crimson. So it was almost like they knew 2 years ago, they knew without Dylan Gabriel it was going to be really tough. And you kind of felt like they knew with their limited not only weapons on offense, but a freshman quarterback against what we found out maybe even a better defense than we thought, at least in that ball game. But it was convincing despite the struggles Texas had offensively early in the game. Second quarter was a huge difference. Yeah. I think they had 8 yards in the first quarter and 222 in the second.
It was a tough watch in the first quarter.
Yeah, but they never let Oklahoma get any kind of big momentum. They got a field goal. And that's it. And that's what Sark talked about today. One of the things is, the defense bailing out the offense. He hates the turnovers, but he likes the fact that the defense can answer the bell on that sudden change. But it was a convincing win over a team that we don't say this very often, but it looked like an overmatched Oklahoma team.
They did, and that was really that was pretty stark just to see that kind of unfold. But like you mentioned earlier, true freshman quarterback Michael Hawkins Jr., I think he could be good with some seasoning. Like he showed flashes of talent with both his arm and his legs. Like there are a couple passes that he ripped over the middle of the field that were just a frozen rope. Kind of sort of reminded me of Malik Murphy a little bit at times.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's got to get more help around him.
Sure. Yeah.
And then that front from Texas was really good, and they put him in a lot of bad spots. But I did think maybe they go to Jackson Arnold just because they kind of got forced into being one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But Brent Venables wasn't going to go down that road, so Texas just. And the key to me, Billy, was that when he got outside, he was never able to turn it up.
Right.
And that's the speed of the Texas defense, because a lot of times that was defensive linemen that kept him in there, and he couldn't turn it, so he'd have to throw it away or make a tough pass. But it was a great performance by Texas. But Billy, you've watched all 6. There is not going to be a comparison to this Saturday's quarterback to the previous 6 in Carson Beck, because he will pick you apart if things aren't going well with a pass rush and with their speedy receiver. So this is going to be the ultimate test against a quarterback, maybe in the country, outside of a couple.
Sure.
And I think not only that, but he's a veteran, and he won't flinch when he gets here. Sark knows him well. He recruited him at Alabama.
Right.
So this will be a much bigger test.
Yeah, I know Carson Beck and Jake Majors are kind of on the same sort of like educational plan. They're just going to be in school for as long as possible and play football for as long as possible.
Now they can cash in, too.
Right, yeah, exactly. But no, like, and Sarkeesian went over that in this morning's press conference. Just all about Carson Beck and his skills. He can make every throw you need him to. Kirby Smart's offensive scheme, a lot of run first, play action. Your classic, kind of a classic, I don't want to say old school offense, but I mean it's sort of like that really common offense we were working with 10, 15 years ago before the spread sort of took over.
Yeah, and I think they're a little more pass heavy now.
Pro-style offense, I guess, is probably a better way to put it.
And Beck put up huge numbers against Mississippi State. I guess the surprising part about that now, Georgia had a big lead, but Mississippi State did put up 31 points on Saturday, so that was a little bit surprising. And the other thing that kind of jumped out to me is Georgia's defense. They're allowing over 120 yards per game on the ground. Mm-hmm. So, you think of their defense, you think of that front, you think it's tough to run. But again, they get ahead in ball games, and then teams have to throw it. So those numbers can sometimes be skewed. But just all in all, I mean, preseason number 1. And it should be quite a Saturday for the Longhorns to try to get through another hurdle. The joke last week could have been, are you looking ahead to Georgia? Who would have thought maybe that was a storyline in the OU week? But anyway, it should be a special night.
You mentioned Georgia's defense. I mean, they're obviously good. They've always been good. But the Texas defense, you look at the numbers, which I did this morning, they are statistically the best defense in the country if you look at scoring defense and you look at total defense. So yards per game allowed. They're both number 1 in the country there, and I believe their pass defense is number 2 in the country as far as yards allowed per game goes. And that was a big emphasis during training camp, was to kind of shore up that pass defense. And they've been able to do it by using the front 4, getting good pass rushing, and obviously the linebackers too. Anthony Hill's all over the field against Oklahoma, but you've really seen that improvement in the pass defense portion of their game so far. But like we've been saying, Carson Beck is an entirely different animal.
Yeah, and I think it all starts with that front 7 and getting pressure, but I can't emphasize it enough, and I've been impressed with this Texas defense. You allow less than 7 points per game against FBS competition, doesn't matter.
Right.
But they have drawn some teams that are traditionally power teams. Let's go back to Michigan. Davis Warren, he was no match for that Texas defense. They had not established Alex Orji. I'm not sure he would have been the answer with the way he throws the ball. Mississippi State, Michael Van Buren was making his first start. He did throw for over 300 against Georgia on Saturday. And then, of course, Michael Hawkins Jr., without any of his starting receivers, struggled. So I go back to, all right, Saturday night around 11 o'clock, we're going to, I think, know a lot more about this Texas defense. The key for Texas is you keep winning, you keep keeping that insurance card in your back pocket, and that is part of the 12-team playoff. So wouldn't be debilitating if they lost this game. Obviously, coaches don't think that way, but Sark even mentioned it with all the great games that were going on. We watched the end of the Ohio State-Oregon game on the road home, and neither of those teams were going to be out of it. What happened? Ohio State loses on a bizarre play where Will Howard slides with no time. They could have potentially kicked a field goal. So my point is, great game, not debilitating, but in some ways, if you fall out of a chance to get to the SEC championship game, obviously it makes the road much tougher, and you want to stack those wins because you still have to go to Nashville, you still have to go to College Station, Kentucky, coming here, Florida. They'll have DJ Lagway because their Graham Mertz is done for the season, so a Texas kid coming home. So Sark's been warning everybody about this whole SEC thing. We could go on all day about each week and the problems it possesses.
Yeah, and I mean, even though like they're at a glance, Texas's SEC schedule looks maybe a little soft, but obviously Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Kentucky's been in a lot of games. Florida with Lagway, they're always offensively at least dynamic, and so like I mean, there's still schools in the SEC that have 85 scholarships like everybody else.
Yeah, and yes, the schedule does look like they caught a break in some respects, but they did have the preseason number 1 on their schedule, whether it was here or in Athens. I think people thought Oklahoma might be a little bit better than they were. Maybe the Aggies are better than people thought, so maybe that kind of balances out.
A&M looks pretty good.
Yeah, they look good, and obviously big game for Connor Wegman, so he's healthy.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see Quinn Ewers if he can take that jump. He admitted he needed to play better. Everybody that watched it know he was a little bit off on some throws. Threw that pick that was high on the third play of the game, but made enough plays. So, you know, and Sark talked about today, the thing he loves most about this team is they can win in different ways. And oh, by the way, we don't know about Isaiah Bond. He said he's kind of day-to-day, went down in the first half, and no Derek Williams for the rest of the season. That's a big loss, one of their safeties. Yeah,
Bond nursing an ankle injury. He suffered there early in the Oklahoma game, didn't play the entire second half. So yeah, they're going to be watching that. He's a key piece. Obviously, I mean, he's the team's leading receiver, and he's got elite speed. I mean, we've written a bunch of stories about him. We've had him all over our airwaves just because of his impact he's made from transferring from Alabama. So that'll be a big thing if he can go or if he's out. But, I mean, Georgia couldn't be any worse off wide receiver-wise than Oklahoma was last week.
Right.
Oklahoma had basically all of their guys out except for former Longhorn Brennan Thompson, who caught the game's first pass.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it.
They're
a little thin, like Texas in the running back department. Trevor Etienne is there, but they have lost a couple of guys that would fit into their rotation as well. But you're kind of at that point in the season where you're going to pay somewhere with injuries. So defensively, see if they can rattle Carson Beck. I don't know if they can rattle him, but make him make a few mistakes. They have thrown 5 picks. He's got over 1,800 yards. He's a little shy of 68% passing. But again, he's seen it and done it all. So in that regard, no matter what DKR is like, and I'm sure it's going to be special, it's not going to be anything he hasn't seen before.
Sure. Nope, it'll just be another college football game.
Another Saturday night, right?
Yep, no Saturday night. All right, so we will leave that there for now. 6:30 p.m. Saturday start time for Texas and Georgia. Number 1 versus number 5 should be one heck of a ball game. That's going to be on ABC prime time, the whole bit. It's going to take center stage on the national college football schedule. So it'll be a good one for sure. We'll both be there and we'll tell you all about it. We've got all kinds of coverage coming up this week to preview the game, and then clearly we'll be there during and after the game to give you guys all of the details. And that'll be it for now for this episode of Horns Report. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates. Thanks so much for watching, and we will talk to you again very soon.